From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be millionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with us, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of your hosts for this episode, and my name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
It's Vicki.
And Ben may pop in. Depends on when the little one falls asleep. We shall see. We have a guest for our podcast, a guest that we've been trying to get on for a while, but I never knew how to get him. And then Ben said, "Oh, I know him." And I'm like, "Well, Ben, you could give the man a bone here. We have." Most people probably know him from Radwood. Other people may know him from Autopia 2099. Car journalist, general car guy. We have Brad Brownell. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Heard good things. I don't know if they're true or not. But.
Oh, I was going to say, if you're super excited to be here, you obviously are not a podcast listener. So that's fine. We'll take it. That's okay. Anybody who listens says no.
It's going to be a couple hours of gotcha journalism where you just ask me the hard questions, I'm sure.
I don't think we're smart enough to ask any hard questions.
Yeah.
But we hopefully will have some fun questions, so that's good.
Yeah.
So since I am a spectacularly bad person to give introductions, just in case people aren't familiar, would you want to give a brief introduction? Could be personal, could be professional, could be family, whatever you like.
Sure. I've been a car guy probably since I came to it pretty late. I was like 17 when I first got into cars really big.
Really?
Yeah. I'd already had my license. There was really nobody in my family that was big into cars, so it kind of just fell into it. And now I'm in it, basically with all my blood, sweat, and tears. I write about cars. Yeah, I'm making up for lost time. That's right. I write about cars for Jalopnik, a Porsche site called Flat Sixes, and I have a column weekly on a site called evpulse.com, all about electric cars. In 2017, I started Radwood with three other co-founders, and it's been a blast. I love every show that we do. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do one in almost a year, but
there's that thing.
Yeah, what's it called? I don't know. It's maybe you've seen it in the news.
David something.
Yeah,
David's fault.
So yeah, and then this year I decided to start another car show because I don't have enough going on.
You do sound good.
And, so it's called Autopia 2099. It's for anything electrified. The way I explain it is whether you have a brand new Tesla or you've home engineered a pair of hydrogen powered inline skates, I want it at my show. So,
that's awesome. So by electrified, do you mean on purpose, or do you mean like in Lemon's connotation where, sometimes, this stuff happens?
Yeah, well, if you're arcing your spark plug to your cylinder head, then, maybe. But no, it's for EVs, plug-in hybrids. They call them self-charging hybrids, a traditional hybrid, or, any kind of mobility implement, motorcycle, e-bike, whatever you have. I want it at the show.
That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, I think it will be. It's kind of a retro futuristic vibe. So we're going for like a World's Fair kind of appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a little bit of science fiction, some Roy Rogers kind of stuff. And I think the goal is to get people in one place and have a good time is the number one goal. And the second goal is to kind of break down the wall of electrified vehicles to make them not so like foreign to most people. these days. You know, there are a lot of people that still think they're difficult to grasp, or there's a level of misunderstanding to them. So definitely bring that to it.
Well, you know, everybody's favorite part when they're mechanically inclined, that they just love working on those electrical problems. That's always their number one thing. So
I will admit that I don't really like those either, but yeah, I think there's definitely a future in it, and you know, it's probably because I've been talking to Jay Lamb too much, but he's definitely gone full electric head in the last few years.
yeah, exactly. So since you started late, what was it that got you into cars and driving at 17?
Well, I did a foreign exchange program in my senior year of high school, and I lived in Spain, central Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather on my stepdad's side, I guess, is probably the closest thing I have to a car guy in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a big Mopar nut. So he would send me his old magazines as part of a monthly care package while I was over there.
Oh.
So I got Mopar magazine and some hot rods and car crafts and that kind of stuff. This would have been like 2004.
Okay.
And so he would send me those, and it was the only thing that I had to read that was in English.
Mm-hmm.
So I would read them cover to cover like 15 times. And I didn't know, like going into it, I didn't know what a carburetor was. I didn't know, you know, what any of it meant. But I kind of learned through repetition what all the parts of a car are and how they work.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's the only thing you could read, right?
Yeah. That's all. I mean, the library didn't have any English books. So it was just, you know, this and then, you know, 2004, there was the internet, but it was still pretty limited.
Yeah.
So
still made those beep beep sounds.
He had CompuServe.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I learned kind of that way by reading a bunch of magazines. He would send me his old magazines and occasionally Motor Trend or, you know, Automobile or something like that. I don't know what any of this means, but I'm going to read it. So basically it was like Stockholm Syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
You're stuck with this. That's all you got. You're going to learn to love it.
And did you learn to love it?
I did. Yeah, I did. By the time I got home, you know, before that I was just passively into cars. You know, I had a Pontiac Grand Prix that I drove, a 91, so it wasn't a good car.
Oh.
And
sorry,
I think it had like 400,000 miles on it. It was on its third engine. Anyway, neither here nor there. So yeah, when I got home, I got super into cars. We picked up a 68 Mustang for me to restore, and I ended up never finishing it because my parents said I was in too far over my head and I needed to save it for a day that I could pay somebody to do the work for me. So I still kind of resent that a little bit.
Did you get rid of it?
My little brother bought it from me a couple years ago.
Did he finish it?
He's getting it restored professionally because he's an engineer and he can afford to do that.
So, what cars are you currently searching for or looking for?
Like to own?
Sure.
I mean, do you race at all, or are you pretty
Not
much
really.
working? No, you're pretty much in the car show.
Yeah, well, and I've been on the journalism side for a lot of years.
Okay.
So I cover professional motorsport fairly heavily for jalopnik.com and for the Porsche site. Obviously, writing for a Porsche site, they're very interested in motorsport, so you kind of have to know what's going on in the world of racing. So yeah, I mean, I attend races. I'm a big proponent of, you know, I'm friends with all the Lemons guys, and I travel in those circles, but I don't actually do any racing myself.
So is there, you know, you lived in Spain, you read some good, some bad car magazines, and you know, you had a 90s Grand Prix, which I apologize for. Is there any like car related goals and dreams, to-dos or bucket list things that you're like, you know, if only somebody would send me car and driver while I was in Sweden, or, you know, whatever.
For the most part, racing is my bucket list. I do want to race personally, but there are events that I want to attend all over the world. And I've been to most of them on my list. Believe it or not, I still haven't been to the Indy 500. I need to do that. I had planned to do it in 2020, but obviously other things came up.
Smaller than normal.
Goodwood is still on my list, both the Revival and the Hill Climb Festival Speed. I went to the Nürburgring 24 in 2019. That was the most recent bucket list check mark.
That's a nice.
That was amazing.
Did you join any graffiti on the track or?
No, we got there too late for that. But I did hike from the main straight all the way out to the carousel, which for those of you who don't know is really effing far. So we went out there in the middle of the night and had lots of beer and had a good time. It was great.
Did you go see? I can't speak today. Did you go see Sabine's place?
No. No, I was there as a guest of Hyundai, so they pretty much had like a schedule of where we were going and what we were going to do. So that is the one downside of going as a guest of someone is you pretty much don't have any autonomy. You just go where they tell you to go.
But yeah, you don't have control.
But
control of schedule.
As far as I'm actually building a track car, it's not going to be a race car, but it's just going to be like a track day / maybe some time attack or something, some hill climb if I can find it. So I have a 97 Porsche Boxster that I'm building into a hybrid.
Okay.
So I'm putting a Nissan Leaf motor in the front to power the front axles, and it'll keep the Porsche motor in the back.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to do two. I was like, oh my goodness, you're jumping in the deep end there.
So it'll be an they call it over the road hybrid. So I'm working on some of the engineering for that right now. It's a crazy project. It's been like 3 years in the making, and I had some reasons for delaying all of that. But had some health issues.
It doesn't sound like you have much time.
There's time.
Shouldn't you start another car show place? I've
got 30 hours in my day, just like every other human.
I know. Vicki came up to me one year for Father's Day. She's like, "What do you want for Father's Day?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like an 8th day every week would be great."
Time. I want time.
Time. Yeah. Please. I have other things going on. I have too many irons and too many fires, but that's just the name of the game when you're me, I guess.
If it's worth doing, it's worth
overdoing.
That's right.
Absolutely. So people tend to know you either as a writer or from Radwood.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
that is a true statement.
It seems to be that the streams don't cross very much, but they should. So perhaps we have some people in our audience that are relatively new, or perhaps they just never heard of, because sometimes you just never hear about things. What is a Radwood, and does it grow in northern climates, or does it bloom and flower very prettily like a dogwood?
Occasionally, yes.
Occasionally, okay.
So Radwood is we call it a car festival because it's more than just a show. And it is dedicated to 1980s and 1990s cars and the surrounding aesthetic and vibe, I guess, is the best way to put that.
Mm-hmm.
We host shows all over the country. We had one international show in the UK, actually at Goodwood, which was pretty cool.
Did you get to go?
I was in the hospital.
Wow, that stinks.
I had a seizure on the plane on the way there. So I was.
Is that a common thing for you?
Nope.
Oh.
Nope. First time for everything.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I had 3 massive ulcers, and my body decided that I was done. So
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Gee, I can't imagine where you get these ulcers from.
What do you want for Christmas? Time.
And a new stomach.
So on the way there, about 3 hours into a 12, 13-hour flight, I passed out, and they didn't know what was wrong with me, so they sent me to the hospital when we got to the ground. And a couple hours later, I was throwing up blood. And they're like, "Oh yeah, this is real bad. So we're gonna keep you here for like a week and a half." And I was like, "Cool, I get to miss my show that I flew all the way over here for."
It's not like you did any work to do to prepare for it or anything, right?
Right. So the show ended. Everybody else went home. I had to reschedule my flights. And then I basically landed, went to the hospital on an ambulance, got released, and then took an Uber back to the airport and flew home. So
it went exactly according to plan.
Yeah, everything worked out great. Thankfully, I lived, and I'm still here today, working twice as hard. So I'm sure that's a great idea. But anyway.
So when did it exactly start?
Radwood started in 2017. We had our first show in June of 2017.
Wow.
Yep.
You guys did a lot really fast.
You guys did a lot.
Yeah, we did. Basically, we had that first show in June of 17 in San Francisco. And that show we had planned to be just kind of like a fun thing for us and our friends to do. And we put up an Instagram and we told people about it. We had podcasts and stuff, so we talked about it a bit. And then like 110 cars showed up.
I was going to say, you have a lot of friends if those are just your friends showing up.
But 110 cars is not bad for starters.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that was when we knew, oh, hey, we've got something going on here. Maybe this could be bigger than just a thing for us and our friends. So like a couple of weeks later, we had some big potential sponsors come on board, and they were like, hey, when's the next show? And we're like, soon. Yeah, let's do this.
It's still in the planning phase.
How am I going to do this?
Yeah. So basically we had the show in June, and then by July somebody asked us when our next show was, and we were like, December. Why not? So yeah.
I'm just going to interject just for a sec. Where was your first show?
San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Then
so your second show was
Los Angeles, and that was much bigger.
Yes.
That one ended up being like 250 cars.
Okay.
We sold out the venue. It was jam-packed. Like the venue, when we were talking to them, they were like, there's no way you'll sell this place out. It's huge. And, there's no point in us even bringing in, like we tried to get food trucks to come, and they were like, no, we've got a restaurant on site. People just buy from the restaurant. We're like, we're going to buy everything at that restaurant. I guarantee it. They're like, no, that's impossible. There's no way. So we sold them out of everything they had, coffee down to French fries. And
did they have emergency food trucks come in?
No, they didn't. And then they were mad at us that everybody used all of the money they had in their ATM. And I was like, you got fees for all of that money. Like, why are you mad? So yeah, we didn't go to that venue again. Anyway.
No.
So that show ended up being that was our kind of breakout show. It got us, actually, you can see it on the wall behind me. Probably not people listening to the show, but we were on the cover of Auto Week magazine.
Yep.
Basically every website covered it. There were blurbs in Road and Track, Car and Driver, the whole.
Wow.
So
that was shocking.
It was pretty cool. And we couldn't have done that without Jalopnik. Thankfully, they helped us pay for the venue, which was quite expensive because Los Angeles venues are very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So the first year we did 2 shows. The next year we did 5 shows.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was 18. And then 19 we did 13 shows. And we had planned for 15 in 20, but we only got to do 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a steep decline.
Yeah. So hopefully this year we'll be able to kick off doing shows again. we're hoping for like a mid to late summer revival of being able to do shows, depending on how restrictions and vaccine rollout and stuff happens. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, we've only gotten to go to one. We missed we missed one due to a conflict, the Philadelphia show, and then we got to go to the NJMP show.
That was cool. Yeah.
Which was great fun.
Philly was frankly amazing. It was like one of our best shows. NJMP was great. I'm so glad that, like I said, I talked to Jay Lamb a lot, and he really believes in what we're doing. And that's the fourth one we've done at a Lemons event.
Oh, cool.
And he's so fun to work with. I just love talking to that guy. Anyway.
They're just a wacky group anyway.
Yeah, totally. And like, Eric Root is one of my best friends. Absolutely adore that guy. And just everyone involved from both the racing side and the management side is like, there's a lot of cool people in the Lemons paddock.
So when people ask me what Radwood is, I usually say it's not your father's car show.
You could say that, sure. But I mean, your father's welcome too.
Yeah, he's
just, welcome to come.
It's
if he's got the right attitude.
I think the implication is the stuffy factor is quite low.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's many Grey Poupons being passed amongst the cars.
No, that is true. We definitely try to downplay the golf course type of car show. We also try and stay away from the parking lot type of car show. It's I mean, if you bring the right attitude, you're bound to have fun. So we just try to encourage people to bring the right attitude. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't be a jerk. Just be cool.
And there you go. That's the podcast.
It's just, be radical to each other, my dudes.
So what goes on at the event?
Well, we always have a DJ. So that's one of the big ones. We play 80s and 90s hits from then and not now. And usually
those songs, sometimes they have this instrument called I believe it's called a guitar. I think they had a guitar back then.
Also guitar.
Yes, I remember the guitar.
I thought that was endangered species or something.
A lot of saxophone. There's a lot of that in that era too.
I believe it's a wailing sax.
Yes. Yeah. Usually some sexy sax.
Absolutely.
We try to have some form of entertainment throughout the day. Sometimes that's breakdancers. Sometimes it's skateboarders jumping over cars. Sometimes it's BMX expos, contests of certain varieties, that type of thing. We've had like the Pepsi challenge, where we do blind taste tests of colas and see if you can test.
That happens in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. So, the slinky competitions, Rubik's Cubes, that kind of stuff. Video games, we have a lot of era appropriate video games occasionally.
So I'm assuming everything's centered around the 80s.
And 90s.
80s and 90s.
80s
and the cars
90s.
feature that also.
Yes.
Mostly. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's specific to 80s and 90s. There's occasionally some earlier cars that sneak in, as long as they are kind of built to that aesthetic.
Period.
If you built a street rod Firebird in 1994 and you painted it teal and you got rid of all the chrome and painted the bumpers teal to match and like put a heartbeat graphic on the side, that's welcome. If the ZZ Top Eliminator wanted to come to a Radwood, it would be welcome, even though it's not an 80s or 90s car.
Right.
But anything beyond
it
1999
so
is usually verboten, so don't even bother.
You got to stay with the aesthetic,
Yeah, exactly.
Need some neon, need some,
I think that that's an era that, the enthusiasm already existed for that era. It was just splintered. It was a bunch of little places. And we kind of brought everybody to one place to bring, because there's always been Geostorm enthusiasts.
Right.
There's not a lot of them. So they have to combine with the, Pontiac Fiero enthusiasts and what have you, and come to one centralized show.
It's also a show where you can go and not be a car guy.
Totally.
Just be a 80s or 90s dude or dude.
Yeah, we have people that that'll just bring like their wearable stuff from that era. They'll have the armband Walkman with the big foam headphones and everything. And they'll be doing their jazzercising or whatever.
Absolutely. Leg warmers. Big.
Leg warmers. So yeah, there's totally space for just people who want to dig the aesthetic, whether or not they're car people or not.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like so much fun.
And
there, there's definitely, especially in Los Angeles, there's like a different faction of people who are just like doing it for the aesthetic specifically because they want to get their Instagram points or whatever. So it's totally, there's influencers that come and they'll pose with cars that they think are cool. But the thing that's always been kind of like the key for me is that when we knew that it was taking off was when people started buying cars specifically to bring to the show.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that happened pretty early on actually. and like not insubstantial purchases that some people have made. And it's obviously they wanted to buy that car anyway, but now it gave them an excuse to go, oh yeah, that's cool again. So
we had a car that we were going to bring to Radwood, except I broke it like Saturday morning and it never got on the track. Well, it did get on the track, but.
So what have been some of the more exciting things that have shown up?
Oh boy. Man, there, what was that car? It was the Chevrolet Eurosport. What is the name of that? The actual car, not the badge, Eurosport. I'm failing. Anyway, somebody had a like absolutely mint one that they brought to our show in Austin back in February last year. And that car was so clean. It was the nicest one I'd ever seen. And I very, very rarely see any of them anyway. And he was just like so enthusiastic that there was a place to show this off. He's like, nobody's ever appreciated my car before. We gave him a trophy because it was so nice.
He found his tribe.
Yeah, exactly. So there's stuff like that. I mean, definitely on the other end of the spectrum, we've had like Le Mans prototypes, Porsche 962s at the show. We've had IMSA GTO cars. We've had, I mean, everything you can think of. Ferrari F40s, Lamborghini Countaches, Vectors, just craziness. But it's always the weird stuff that sticks out to me. The stuff that's maybe was built in period that still has like its wheels from the, tri-spoke wheels or, a big system. There was a mini truck that somebody had brought that was on the cover of Truckin' magazine in like 93. And it had a wall of subs in the bed, and it had, that's the kind of stuff that I get really excited about.
So we had a bunch of listeners when you put out that you were coming on. We had a bunch of listeners, and the most popular question was, do you have a hoped for schedule at this point, or are you just gonna play it by ear for this year? Or?
We have an internal preliminary schedule that we are hoping will work. We don't want to release anything until we know that it can work, because we don't want to get people's hopes up and then dash them against the rocks.
Could I pry for 1 second? Could we say, do we hit the east, the west, and the middle?
Probably not much in the middle.
Okay.
Probably not much in the middle, but definitely east and west, and definitely places we've been before.
Sorry, Iowa. We'll get you in 2022.
If I don't know where we would go in the middle, honestly. Maybe a Denver or something. It's so hard to pick a city that's both big enough to support it, because like, if we can get.
Do you ever hear of like Chicago?
We've talked about doing a Chicago, and we went to Detroit, and the initial idea was to do both Detroit and Chicago, but that fell through.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were talking about doing alternating between Detroit and Chicago every other year, which is, maybe eventually something we can bring back up once things get sort of back to normal.
Mm.
One of the major things that sucks about not being able to do a show for a year and a half is like we still have bills.
Yeah.
in that off time, so like we aren't at the strength that we were when all this started.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to get started again, our momentum definitely got hit. So we're gonna have to kind of start small again.
Right.
But definitely like Chicago is definitely on the list of places we want to go. The other thing that's kind of down about this is there's only 5 of us.
Right.
And we only have so much energy. So like one show a month is basically all we can do. And if we're,
I mean, you're not doing anything.
Right, exactly. We're pretty much always going to do a Seattle show. There's always going to be a NorCal and a SoCal show, because those are our biggest shows by far. Texas is pretty much always going to happen. That's kind of the middle of the country.
That is middle, yeah.
I know it's not super close for people in Nebraska or North Dakota or whatever, but I'm sorry.
You didn't build the United States.
Right.
It's not.
Probably a Midwest, Detroit, Chicago will probably always be on our mind. And then definitely something in the Northeast and the Southeast is probably always going to happen. We had planned to do South Carolina, and that was the first one that we had to cancel. And New Jersey was supposed to be shortly after that, or
right.
Philly. Yeah.
Was it Philly this year? Can't remember. I thought you were.
Well, last year at this point. It's already 2021.
Yeah, painfully, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, I mean, the idea is that we're going to have 4 corners of the map, and then probably Texas, and hopefully something in the Midwest. Hopefully, eventually, we can get to a point where, maybe we do a smaller show in smaller places, but it'll require more people and more time. So, yeah.
Have you guys thought about a virtual Radwood?
We did 2 of them last year.
Okay.
The first one went really, really well. The second one, we got about a quarter as many people participating, and everyone decided it was over. So
that's a bummer.
Basically, it was like the first one was like right after lockdown, and in I guess it was April, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, it's so great to have anything to do with cars. Let's," everybody came out and everybody participated. We had thousands of people participate from all over the world too, which was great. And that was one of the things that I loved, was we were able to get to see cars from places that we don't normally get to do shows. But the second one basically was like going in, late spring when everybody decided they were done doing lockdown. And so like Cars and Coffees had started up again and stuff like that, even though there are still restrictions and limitations, they were doing them anyway. So people are like, oh, well, if I can go to a Cars and Coffee, why do I need to do a virtual show? So that was kind of when virtual died, when nobody was doing their Zoom quizzes anymore.
Right.
So the second one didn't do so well, and we ended up deciding that it probably wasn't worth it. So then we pivoted our energies to another idea that we had, which was Rad for Sale. So we're doing an online auction site for Radwood era vehicles, hopefully launching next month. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, it'll be like a bringer trailer or whatever, but specifically limited to 80s and 90s cars.
So Vicki, I'm trying to support our guests in the next couple months.
Yeah, by buying a car on the.
So, okay. As long as she didn't get that, we're good. So we had several listeners came in with some questions. One was about a story that involves some fake cocaine.
Yeah, good friend of mine, Rich Chen from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. He came to that second show, the Los Angeles show, and he was dressed as 1980s power broker. He said that he was a penny stocks day trader by day and a Yakuza hitman by night was his outfit. But he had a Halliburton case, proper, late 80s attire.
Nice.
And
was it handcuffed to his wrist too?
It was not.
Members only jacket.
Yeah, of course. And he came to the show dressed for the show because he flew in for the day and then flew home when the show was over.
Wow.
So he flew in with this Halliburton case, and the case had powdered sugar in it in little baggies. No. And TSA didn't like that. So yeah, he was.
Imagine.
It's like it's flour.
Yeah, he was pulled aside for testing. But he did make his flight. They just told him, "Don't do that ever again."
You're going to get shot.
So yeah.
Good.
Any plans for our international friends?
Well, we did have the one in the UK.
Oh, we've got more requests. We've got people requesting.
We have a lot of fans across the.
So
we've talked about mainland Europe, and we've talked about Australia, and we tried to do one in Japan, but we just could not connect with the community there. So
okay, so we had a few requests. We had Australia that came in strong and proud.
Australia's a big place.
It is.
So
you get west or east. Pick one.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
We had New Zealand coming in.
I would love to go to New Zealand. And we actually discussed going there when New Zealand was like COVID free. Yeah. And everyone else was in crazy lockdown. We were like, what if we just fly there?
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No. Quarantine for 2 weeks and then have a show and then fly home. It'd be great.
How hard can it be?
Obviously the cost of that would be astronomical, but that's one of the big problems with international travel is flying 5 people to Australia is $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
So
is it?
It's not cheap.
At least. We had Denmark call in. They requested one.
I could see Germany. Maybe they would be close enough to Denmark that they could come.
It's close. Okay. And then we also had a person volunteer. Now, he said he would pay for it, no problem. He was a Nigerian prince, and he said that he would pay for it. All he needs is a minor loan to get his money that's tied up.
Right.
He said, no problem. Just if you want, I can get you his information. He sends us emails all the time. Great guy.
I think he's been sending me emails. We've been corresponding for like 10 years.
Oh, okay. All right.
I've already given him like $60,000. He should have his money by now.
I was going to say I can put you in touch with our Nigerian prince friend if you need to. So it's up to you. But
we always have to go to our other folder to find him, though.
Right.
I don't know. He had a sister a while back. I haven't heard what's going on with that. Let's see. What else did we have? We had somebody write in, and they said, was there any chance of you partnering with sunglass companies? And they particularly would like you to partner with Pit Viper. If you look at the Pit Viper website, it fits really well.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. We have had some sunglasses companies at our shows.
Nice.
And they would be welcome to come. I think that'd be cool. Have their people talk to my people, I guess, is the answer.
Very well. I will try to get you the ones that aren't owned by Nigerian princes.
Right.
I'll see what I
Yes.
can do.
Yes.
All right, we've gotten to the part where Vicki gets very excited and says that
I
this is the fun
do.
part, as
I
opposed
like
to
this
everything
part.
we've done before. But go ahead, Vic.
Okay. All right. Right now, we're going to introduce you to the Fast and Furious Storytime questions. We're going to get to know you personally a little bit better. And these are really fun questions to start with.
Okay.
So we're going to start off with, what was your very first car? And what was the worst car you ever had?
Might be the same car.
It usually is.
It usually is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, no, I take that back. Okay. So my first car was the Pontiac Grand Prix that I told you about earlier.
What year? Again, I forgot.
91. Front
Okay.
wheel drive, 3100,
Wow.
automatic.
So
It had all
young.
the buttons on the steering wheel.
He's so young.
I got my license in 2003. So it was already
I'm
an 11,
confused.
12-year-old car.
Oh, that's right, because you don't have to drive, right? No, why
No.
did you get your license so late?
That's when he was born.
I was born in 87.
Yes.
You are so young. Oh my!
Vicky's unhappy right now.
Yeah.
All these
So-
young people showing up.
Everybody's
Just
like, "Oh, I started racing late. I was like 30,"
Like what?
and I'm like, "You were
Okay, go ahead.
52."
So yeah, I had this old beater. My mom actually leased that car new and then sold the lease out to my aunt, and my aunt drove it like 300,000 miles.
On a
And then I
lease?
got it. No, she bought
Oh.
out the lease.
Whew, okay, sorry.
She bought out the lease.
I was like,
so
holy
from
cow.
like 94 to 2003, she drove it that much.
I was gonna say,
and then
10
I
cents a
got it.
mile. Oof.
I got it and then crashed it a year later.
Hmm.
So it was like the day before my 17th birthday. I crashed the car, totaled it, smoked it into a tree.
Oh.
I had just had a big fight with my girlfriend, and anyway.
Trees win.
Yeah, trees win. I was swerving to miss another car because I had failed to yield, and anyway, whole big thing. Probably the worst car that I ever had was the one that came after that. Was my dad had, what was it? It was a 89 Oldsmobile 98
Wow.
sedan. Yeah.
You're going the wrong way, sir.
Yeah. Well, I got that because it was free. My dad had
If
the
it's
car.
free, it's me.
Exactly.
He should have paid you.
He just
My
wanted to
dad
get rid of it.
had the car, and it sprung a leak in the radiator, so he parked it in a field, and he said, if you can get it running, you can have it. And I said, challenge accepted, because I need wheels. So I swapped the radiator, and it had been taken over by a colony of hornets, so I had to find a way to get them out of it. And it had seized all of the locks except the rear passenger. So to get in, you had to go in through the rear passenger door.
It's like a security system.
Yeah, exactly. And then like the aluminum wheels, I still to this day don't understand how it happened, but I wasn't enough of a car guy at the time to really understand. But the aluminum wheels, some of the aluminum from the face of the wheel had stuck to the hub. So if you put another set of wheels on, it was wobbly.
That makes rotation
So I had to,
quite difficult.
Yeah. So I had to chip all of the old aluminum off of the inside of the hub and then put the wheels from my Grand Prix on the old 98. So
Yep, I think that's the winner.
so that was a pretty bad car. Actually, I have another one. This was the dumbest thing I've ever bought. When in my senior year, I was on my fifth car, my senior year of high school. I bought a Triumph TR7.
Oh, there comes the sixth car coming real
Yeah.
fast right after it.
Yep. I had that for 6 months. It tried to kill me 3 times.
Mhm. That's what the TR stands for. Try.
The previous owner had apparently the brake master cylinder had gone bad. It was a girling, piece of crap. And so instead of trying to fit the correct one, they took one off of a Chevy S10, bolted it to a plate, and then wedged that plate against the firewall. And in a panic stop, I slammed on the brakes and popped the entire master cylinder off the firewall.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I can't see the problem there. You've got
no problem at all. No.
The British Triumph engineering combined with the Chevy S10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's obvious.
Best of both worlds.
That's why they did it.
So yeah, that was also a very bad car. So probably maybe the second worst car I've ever had.
Okay.
Then after that, man, I had another really bad car.
You're beginning to set a series here,
Yeah. Well, poor Midwestern kid needs wheels, buys crap. There you go. I bought a 93 Fox body Mustang convertible.
Okay.
Automatic.
Oof. Sorry.
2.3.
Oof.
Yeah. It was real bad. Yeah. And the automatic slipped really, really bad.
Well, all that torque. I mean,
Yeah, all that. So I was putting like transmission honey in like every 1,000 miles or so.
Oh.
Just
geez.
Trying to get to work because I'd step on the accelerator and go, and it would finally take off from the line. I had to time stoplights so that when when I knew that it would go to green, I had to press on the accelerator before it went green to go. Otherwise, I would be pressing on the accelerator, not going anywhere, and people behind me would honk.
Wow.
So I had to fill the transmission.
That's amazing. Well,
it was bad.
So
I had a series of very bad cars.
It seems that way. It does.
So I had another one.
How many cars did you have as a senior?
You have some pretty bad cars.
So Donnie from Florida.
Oh yeah, he and I probably have a list of cars about the same length.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He probably has more cars than me right now because I only have 7. I think he's probably got more.
He's got you crushed right now.
Yeah. So I was big on the Grassroots Motorsports forum in college.
Mm-hmm.
So this would have been 2008, 2009. A friend of mine from the forum was selling a Ford Aspire, and he said, $500. And I was like, I don't know if I can come up with $500. All I do is deliver Chinese food for a living. Like, I don't have $500. And he's like, well, I'll think about it. And then he dropped the garage door on the back window and broke the back window out. And he's like, if you can come get it tomorrow, you can have it.
That's the right price.
And then he says, if it's free, it's me.
Yeah. So that was actually the first car I ever drove stick, and I had never learned to drive stick. So a friend dropped me off, and I was like, wait for me to drive away because I don't know if I can get it home. And he's like, nope, I'm out of here.
That's awesome.
So that was how I learned to drive stick, was just trial by fire.
Sounds like Jennifer at our race when we threw her in the car and she didn't know how to drive stick. So surprisingly, with this list of fine vehicles,
fine automobiles,
we have not come up with the conceptual car that we're looking for. So usually we stole this from Spike's podcast.
Okay.
The Taproot car, the car that got you into cars. Some people, it's a Matchbox.
Oh, actually, it was the TR7.
Was
it? Believe it or not, yeah. I had to learn how to fix it so that I could drive it.
Okay.
So by digging into that automobile was how I really got into cars. And it was perhaps poor inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Because that car never ran.
So far. Yeah.
That car never ran again.
Mhm.
But
He has a history.
yeah, but I learned a lot with that car about.
You're like last leg Brad for all these cars.
Is your middle name Petruniak? I'm just checking. Like, is there a hyphen there, maybe? And yes,
You know what? Like
Don.
he and I are polar opposites, but I absolutely adore that guy. Don't let anyone tell you that we're enemies because he thinks that we're enemies, but we are not.
He thinks I can't pronounce his name, but I can. Miss Vicki?
So, what is that one thing that no one knows about you that would surprise them?
Oh,
I'm not talking about like nobody. I'm talking about the general population.
sure. I grew up on a farm and I was in 4-H for 8 years, and I
Ooh.
took animals to the fair every year, and
Oh, you had to do the tractor pull.
That's where he gets his skills from.
Yeah, probably.
Tractor pull? Tractor pull? Did you do the tractor?
I never did a tractor pull. I did work on tractors because we had an Oliver Super 55 and an Oliver 77 and a John Deere Model A. And those occasionally needed work. And I probably got into motors because I was super into four-wheelers for a while. So we had a couple of Yamaha blasters. Yeah, but I raised chickens, turkeys, rabbits, goats, sheep, and
cars in your senior year.
Right. And then I did. I brought presentations. You're supposed to bring. You could bring like a bale of hay to be judged against other bales of hay. I brought a lot of that. And you could bring like woodworking or art that you had made or stuff like that. They would have these presentation rooms at the fair. So I did a lot of that. I think one year I won
Miss Hay 1987.
Yes, it was a good year. I think one year I actually won something like 17 Grand and Reserve Champion ribbons. So yeah, I was very successful at fair.
Good times. Good times.
That was actually how I paid for my foreign exchange program, was by selling my animals at the fair.
Very nice.
So what car from your family when you were growing up sticks out in your mind?
My mother had a Cougar XR7, the 80s one, the 5-liter.
Yep.
That wasn't too bad.
Nope.
My parents divorced when I was 2, so my mom had that car probably in the late 80s, probably before the Grand Prix. I don't remember exactly, but I was probably the age that you should be in a car seat, but I didn't have a car seat. And I would just bounce around in the back of the Cougar.
Didn't affect you at all?
Nope. I'm totally normal. Absolutely down to every bone in my body is normal. Guaranteed.
Very good. Automatic, stick, or don't care?
I prefer stick, but lately I've fallen into electrics, and those don't have stick. So,
but they should.
It wouldn't do anything because they rev out so high.
Yeah,
and
true.
their torque's available from 0. So yeah.
But
I have a Nissan Leaf that I drove to the office today. That's pretty fun.
But I need to get off the line a little faster. Sorry. Miss Vicki.
No, I just asked the question.
Oh, you did? Okay. Mr. Bill? Well, Mr. Bill, I think
Mr. Bill?
Yes, I will, I'll take the next one then. Do you have a favorite race car driver?
Oh.
Could be a few. It's up to you.
You know, I've tried to maintain some impartiality as a writer for all these years because I've covered all of their exploits.
Is it Donnie?
But I don't know. This year I really fell into Formula One and followed all the drama and stuff, and I think George Russell's really got it. I think he's a
Could
good
be.
kid. He's
Could
got
be.
potential.
It was an entertaining year in some
It
ways.
sure was.
In some ways.
It
So,
sure was.
Front wheel, rear wheel, four wheel, or does it matter?
Motorcycle.
Oh,
One wheel.
Ooh. Well, it feels like one wheel.
Yeah. No,
I didn't say two wheel.
I don't have a particular preference. I've driven some really good front wheel drive cars. I've driven some really bad rear wheel drive cars. My preference is, I gravitate toward weird German cars, usually Porsches, so probably rear wheel. But yeah, given my opportunity to go for like a really fun ride, it's going to be a motorcycle for sure.
Oh,
Okay. With your driving history, you're going to think the wrong way. Okay. So this is the car that got away, not the car that you wish went away. The car that got away.
Oh,
Either you sold it and you shouldn't have, or you should have bought it but you didn't, or
yeah. It's going to sound weird, but I really miss my old Crown Vic.
Really?
Actually,
Aw.
okay.
you probably still get it.
Here's the real one. My wife was inherited a Lincoln Town Car with like 5,000 miles on it. It was cherry. Everything about it was perfect. Smelled a little bit like mothballs, but it was pretty perfect. And we had it for about 3 weeks, and then she totaled it.
Ah.
That was a real bummer because that thing was really nice.
But all the squishy stuff was fine, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yep. We were following a car on the highway, and then there was a car stopped, and the car in front of us swerved at the last second, and then hey, there's a car in front of us that stopped. So she swerved the other way, went into a ditch, and bent the frame in half. So.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, the weird thing about me is I don't ever like go out seeking cars. They always find me.
So it seems from our earlier conversation.
So what car thinks that Brad got away?
Oh, good question. So when I was looking for my first car, second car after I crashed the Grand Prix, and before I took over the Olds 98.
Yeah, Olds 98.
We were driving down the road, my parents and I was in the back seat, and there was a Thunderbird for sale on the side of the road. And we were like, oh, let's go look at this. And it turns out it was a Thunderbird SC, the Super Coupe.
Oh, okay.
3.8 liter supercharged V6 with a stick. And it was kind of a rainy day that day. And so we stopped and looked at it. The guy comes out and he goes, man, this thing will get you off the line real quick. It's real fast. And I'm like, dude, I'm here with my parents. You shouldn't be telling them how fast this car is.
Working. Yeah.
Clearly, you do not want to sell this car to me because my parents are right here. And he's like, man, you could drive this thing so fast. I wouldn't drive it today though because it's rainy. You'd probably spin out and die.
Nice. He's got a future.
So, needless to say, I did not get that car.
No.
But
Sound like it.
I do wish that I kind of had. That would have been
Speaking on that, what is the fastest you've ever driven a car?
Oh, geez.
What car, where, and when?
As long as we're outside the statute of limitations.
Man, I don't know that I know. Oh, probably. I went on the launch of the last generation 911 GT3 RS at Road Atlanta, and we were doing lead follow laps in the rain, and I was following Hurley Haywood down into the turn 10 complex at Road Atlanta there.
Yep.
10A, 10B. We were going down the hill. I couldn't see his taillights because he was kicking up so much rain. But we were going about 170.
I was going to say he can get around that track. He can get around that track pretty well.
Yeah. That's a nice long straightaway, and that car drives like a video game.
Yep.
It's a little bit crazy. It warps time. I don't know how it does it, but it does.
Okay, so
that's probably the fastest I've ever been on in a car.
Two-parter for you. Okay. What is the holy grail car for Radwood that you've seen so far, and what's the white whale you haven't seen?
Ooh.
Now these you're not slighting anybody. It's what comes to mind.
Sure. Yeah, I think the most representative of the era is probably the Vector that we had at LA a couple years ago.
That's pretty 80s.
It's very 80s.
Looking it up now.
As far as one
Vicki's not a car girl, she's a driver.
Wow.
That's okay. We all have our thing. As far as white whale that we haven't seen, man, I don't know. I welcome it all. I don't know what we haven't seen. We haven't had an XJ220. I'd like to have that.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Those are cool. The Jag supercar.
Yep. That's a long car. You need some room for that one.
We had an ED110, which was cool. We had the F40, which was cool. We've had pretty much all of the cars, 959, all the cars that did 200 in the late 80s, early 90s. Right. But we haven't had the 220. That's the one that's missing. So I would say that.
If you can drive a daily drive, let me start that again.
You've only asked this question
if you could
like 100
only
times.
daily drive or race cars from one decade in the past, what decade would you choose?
It's like a coin toss for you, right?
Honestly, man, that's tough. I would honestly probably say the 70s.
Really? Mr. Non-Radwood.
Yeah, maybe. The one from my collection that I drive the most is the 912E, 76 912E. And as far as race cars go, the early 70s were where it's at. The Trans Am and 917s at Le Mans and Can-Am and
all that safety stuff.
It's tough to beat that.
Yeah.
Who needs that? Who needs that?
That's right. Okay, so
tires that blow up at 220,
no problem. They were rated for 150. They're good. They're fine.
I mean, you wouldn't know you were in trouble till after you were dead. So pretty much.
Fine. So we're going to play the lottery someday, and not only are we going to play, but when we play to win. So we're going to win the lottery. So we're going to have an island, and on our island will be a racetrack and a dirt track and whatever else type of automobiling or motorcycling that you wish to have. Now, as the payment for coming on to our podcast, we want to make sure we have the 5 vehicles that you need to fully enjoy your stay on our island. So what vehicles do we have to have ready and prepared for you upon your arrival?
I think that the answer to this question changes depending on what day you ask it.
Oh, for sure. If you come on again, you get 5 more cars. So that's fine.
Oh, let's see. I would say, man, that's tough. Let's go with a Porsche 356 Carrera.
Okay.
Let's go with a brand new Taycan, because those are the most amazing electric.
Did you like it when you drove it?
It's the best car I've ever driven.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not even, no qualms about that. That is the best car I've ever driven.
It's not too fast?
It's too fast, but if you got a racetrack, it's just fast enough.
Okay. All right.
I would want my 912E exactly as it is.
No problem.
No problem.
We have a 3D printer. No problem.
I've fallen in love with that car. It's a love-hate relationship, but we love each other greatly.
So you love it and it hates you.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Or it hates my wallet anyway. I'm a muscle car guy at heart, so I'm gonna have to say like a 70 Boss 302
Okay.
Trans Am car,
Okay.
like a Bud Moore.
Full race car.
Yeah, full race car. Yeah. Okay. Oh boy, and gotta have something from the Radwood era. What's my favorite thing from that era?
I was going to say you've avoided it all the way here.
Yeah. I don't want to pick favorites because everything from the 80s and 90s was my child these days.
You could bring that XJ220 off the island, take it with you.
That'd be pretty cool. No, I'd say something weird like a
Colt GLH.
Oh man, a GLHS would be really cool, but I think I'm gonna have to go with. This is tough. Okay, so at the end of Group B, at the very tail end of Group B, Toyota was building an MR2 Group B rally car called the 222D.
Mm-hmm.
That's my choice. I would pick that. That's my fifth.
Yeah, I've got to show Vicki some Group B stuff. She hasn't seen it all yet.
It's pretty special. Pretty special.
And those spectators were spectacular.
Very dumb.
Stupid. Yes.
Very dumb.
So, where would your ultimate road trip be from and to, and in what car?
Ooh.
I know, right? It's a good question.
That is a good question.
You know, we're not just here for our looks. We come with the hard-hitting journalism.
I've done a few road trips in recent years that, I did all the way around the country in the 912E, and then I did a cross country last year on a Ducati Diavel. Man, oh, that's tough. Where would I go?
Doesn't have to be U.S. either.
Yeah, I know. That's the hard part.
Every time I ask the question, I have a different answer in my mind for what I would do. So,
okay. There's a really cool route in Scotland that I've always wanted to do. Oh, what is the name of that thing?
Tell me.
Yeah.
Vicky's Scottish, so she's already planning now.
Okay. There's this route that goes by the ocean, and I don't know what it's called, but anyway,
we'll put it in the podcast notes. We'll find it.
Yeah. And what would it be in? I think those roads would be really conducive to like a tarmac rally kind of car.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like an Audi Coupe Quattro, something like that. Be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that sounds fun. We'll say that.
All right.
Again, this is a question that could change by the hour, let alone. But,
yeah, for sure.
Get your wanderlust on.
Yeah.
So I was kind of scared to ask you this, but what is your most memorable car breakdown on a road or track?
That's a good one.
I've had so many.
This could be multiple choice here.
I've had so many. Okay. I was heading to SEMA like 5 years ago in my 97 Boxster. And for those of you who don't know, I'm in Reno, Nevada, which is like northwest up by Lake Tahoe. And Las Vegas, where SEMA is all the way down at the kind of at the pointy part, but not quite on the California side.
It's so close.
It's not close. It's like an 9-hour drive. And you're going through literally the middle of nowhere. And it's just open desert for hours and hours and hours at a time. And most of it is 55 miles an hour. And yeah, so not fun, not easy, just slog, just go.
You want
and
the
SEMA happens
self-driving
in
car, right?
Yeah, that's what that's for. SEMA is in October, end of October, around Halloween. So I was driving down and I lost the idler pulley for the belt on the front of the motor. And, and I was 40 miles from the nearest town. And it was just getting dark. So, and at the time, I had just quit my desk job to write full time, and I was very, very broke.
Oh,
Like writing doesn't pay all that well, especially when you're first starting.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really have enough money to call a tow truck or anything like that, and I was by that point 3.5 hours from my house. So I was like, well, what do I do? So luckily that day I had packed a 10mm spanner. So I got my wrench out and I opened everything up. You know, I took the cover off the front of the engine, looked at what was going on because I heard a bang and lost power steering, lost, you know, the dash lit up like Christmas tree. So I pulled off to the side and I opened it up to look at what was going on. The engine still ran. It wasn't spitting smoke. It wasn't, you know, leaking a bunch of oil or anything. So I was pretty sure I didn't have a huge catastrophic failure. I just heard this bang and all the lights came on. So I pulled off and looked at it. And obviously the belt was just sitting in the engine tray. And the idler pulley had come out far enough and then just bent in half. Like the bolt that it was on just railed itself and bent, and it bent into the alternator, and so it was spinning into the alternator, and it pushed this. There's still a round cutout from where the idler pulley went into the alternator.
Oh no!
And so
it was self-clearancing.
Exactly. So I knew what the problem was. So I pulled the belt out and I pulled the pulley out. And I knew the car would run. Obviously, there's nothing running the water pump. So I was like, well, battery's full of juice. So I should be okay without an alternator for a little while, as long as I don't run the heat and the
lights.
You know, well, it was getting dark, so I kind of had to run the lights. But I only ran them on like parking lights because it's the desert. Like, what are they going to do? They'll see you. So I fired it up. And I would drive like 10 miles watching the temperature slowly climb. And then I would shut it off and coast to the side and wait for it to cool down for an hour. And then start it up again and drive another 10 miles, coast to the side, wait for it to cool down. And I finally made it to town. And then luckily, the local Porsche shop here in Reno, I was good friends with the owner. And I convinced him to loan my wife the tools and the parts needed to fix it and have her drive down to me 4 hours away.
Wow.
Fix the car in 10 minutes. And then I was like, well, I'm not going to SEMA because I've already missed the last day. So I just turned around and went home.
The trip to nowhere.
The trip to Tonopah, Nevada. The home of the Clown Motel. That's
Is it called that before you came or after?
This clown stayed at the Clown Motel.
Very nice. All
Very
right.
good.
Jeremy, Hammond, May, Chris, Matt, other.
Chris.
Okay. Very nice.
Very good. Let me see. Favorite car, movie, or car from a movie of all time?
I see a poster in the back.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I have this Gone in 60 Seconds poster over my shoulder. It's signed by the entire cast.
Nice.
So that's probably a good indication that I do love that movie. It's so kitschy, but they got so much right. And I got to say, it's, you know, it's a bad movie. Like the dialogue's bad, the acting's bad, but it's intentionally bad. It's a Bruckheimer movie. Of course it's bad.
It's not exactly a
But it's got cars.
It's not going for the Oscar for sure.
No, yeah. If you went to a movie with Nick Cage and Angelina Jolie as the leads, and you thought that it was going to win any kind of award, that's on you, man.
Yeah.
maybe a Razzie.
Yeah, exactly. But I think they got a lot right with the cars and there's a lot of stuff in it that feels very, relatable to car people.
Sure.
So I don't know, maybe that. And in the similar vein, probably like the Fast and the Furious series, especially the early ones.
Okay.
They got a lot wrong that Gone in 60 Seconds got right, but
yeah.
But it had cars.
Okay. All right. Best back road, country road, highway, drive. What's your favorite?
Ooh. Highway 33 from Ojai to Central Valley, California desert is just gorgeous. Everything there is amazing.
Okay.
We're
going to make a collection of these and put them on the website.
Cool.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, Highway 33 rules. It's very fun. It's pretty well known these days, but
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me see.
Your favorite
All
question?
Yeah. My favorite question?
Mm-hmm.
What car would you like to wipe away from history? I hate that question.
but yet you get it every single time.
That's awesome. Do. It always ends up falling in my line. All right.
Why do you hate that question?
Because I think all cars have
a place.
Have a place. I mean, even the rotten cars were built rotten for a reason. It could have been the economy. It could have been a startup in the United States, and they do have a purpose. So,
a car that I could wipe away.
It could be the whole brand. It could be the whole model. It could be one particular car.
Probably just because it started a trend. I don't have any like particular hate for this vehicle in my heart, but the BMW X5 was the first like mainstream luxury SUV, and it made SUVs like normal for people, and I don't like that.
Okay.
That's my big thing.
Along with the favorite drive, how about favorite restaurant or one that comes to mind first?
I
figure we'll have
This is actually kind of tough because I just went vegetarian this year, so there's a lot of
really. How's that going?
Pretty well. I tried it before, and I just kind of like things happened, and I just kind of fell out of it. But this year, I'm pretty committed to it. And I don't, there's enough meat substitutes.
Wait a minute, this year's we're 11 days in.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was going to say I'd be dead by now, but that's fine.
There's enough meat substitutes out there that are good enough that I think I'll be able to make it.
Are Slurpees vegetarian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a chance then.
But before that, there's this place here in Reno called Crazy D's Hot Chicken, and that place rules. As far as places to drive to, I don't know. There's not. I don't know.
No worries.
All the good driving roads here in Nevada are like empty. They go to almost nowhere.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, so what are you doing with it? Go ahead.
Okay. Favorite track so far?
Road America. It's pretty great. That was the first track that I ever went to a professional race at. I love Road Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for a couple years. God, I live 4 hours from Laguna Seca, and I go there all the time. I don't know. I guess I don't have a favorite. Anything that's good.
It's
Anything
only 4
that's
hours. Good. That's interesting. Okay. Didn't put that together.
All right. It's hop on I-80 and you're over there. I go over there for pretty much all the professional stuff. I camped there for the the motorcycle races there a couple months ago. So, yeah, great track. Pretty much world famous and world grade. So it's hard to say, my favorite, but maybe it's a cop-out answer.
Oh, that's fine. So we have a special guest. Hosts, come on. Better
Nice
late than
hat.
never. Nice hat. Ben.
Hi, how's everybody doing? It's Ben.
Hi, it's Ben.
And my very comfortable Radwood hat.
Yeah.
This is Ben Dawson.
That's right. I've heard he dominates. So, Brad, got a question.
Yes.
Got a question for you. I have this magical gift. I can make it so that you can see or hear something for the very first time. So, what song would you want to hear for the very first time?
Oh. I don't know. That's tough.
I know. It could be an album. If you like an album, you can do an album.
Okay.
Is it Miami Vice theme?
I think if I could go back and hear My Generation by The Who right now, that's what I would pick for the first time.
I think you get a head nod from Mr. Dawson.
Timely, very timely.
I always think of that song as kind of the first punk rock song before punk rock was punk rock.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
I dig it.
Who's your favorite punk band?
He's a Blondie guy.
Yeah, you never know. I
I
don't know. That's tough. I listened to, probably when I was younger, I would have said NoFX is like my favorite. Just I listened to them a lot for some reason. I was a very angsty teenager.
With those cars you were driving.
You were so angsty. You're so emo.
Yeah.
Well, he got to listen to all these songs in his Walkman on the side of the road as his cars are broken.
That's right. All
Oh,
the
man.
breakdowns.
It sounds like I got a lot of the first half of the episode is gonna be pretty good here about these beaters.
All right. So my magical gift also includes movies. So what movie
Ooh,
would you want to see for the first time?
Jurassic Park.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Whoa,
100%.
That's,
Greatest movie ever made.
We don't, I
that's
don't
cool.
think
One
we
of
ever
my
asked.
teammates is obsessed with that movie. My teammate Reed, who built the E36 with all that cool confetti graphics down the side, he's obsessed with Jurassic Park. I'm surprised our E36 didn't end up with a Jurassic Park Jeep theme.
I don't think we ever asked you, Ben. What about song and movie? What would you want?
I would hear the whole album of Led Zeppelin 4, starting with Black Dog as the first song, but like that was the song that broke me into like a whole different musical direction that didn't really stop. I don't know about a movie. Maybe I saw Cannonball Run. Like when I'm so old, I saw it in the theater. I think with my parents when it came out. I would love to see that for the very first time when I was about 17.
Very nice. Yes, don't feel bad, Ben. Remember, I'm here and Vicky's here. We saw it in the movies very easily. We didn't even have to be chaperoned to go see that one.
Ugh.
So Mr. Dawson, did you have any questions for Brad before we wrap up?
Have you already done questions from listeners?
We did the question from the
About-
listener. Yes, this was the
Okay,
listener who
all right,
wanted
so-
to know about the cocaine.
Mm.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure somebody I saw from my team had asked about the least rad car. Did they get covered?
Oh, we didn't ask
What
that
do you
one.
think is what do you think is this is a question from my teammate Reed Tull. He wants to know what do you think is the least rad car? Is there one?
Oh, that's a good
Um,
one.
From the rad era or ever?
How
Both.
about
I think we do
from the rad
both.
era and then outside? Because I bet there's a
Okay.
good answer for both.
Okay, all right. Least rad from the Radwood era is probably probably like I'm blanking, but anything that carried over
So I say
from
it came in from the 70s, maybe.
came in from the 70s and was like only available in 1980.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't think of anything right now, but maybe like oh, I don't know. No, Mustang 2 ended at 79.
I was gonna say that I was thinking that first half of that generation where they had that real slopey nose on that first generation of the Fox bodies, that first little sub generation, they look pretty.
Yeah, like 79 to 82, I
Right.
think, and they had like the egg crate grill.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was pretty 70s.
Yeah.
That was pretty 70s. I don't know. I mean, I think the Fox body kind of defines the rad era, honestly. So even an offshoot like that early one is still probably considered. It's kind of weird because the eras they definitely don't end and start at 1980. Like,
right.
there's a lot of crossover, that brown and avocado green kind of era of the late 70s goes into the early 80s before things started to get brighter and more colorful.
And electric.
Yeah. At least like by 85, orange was more of a thing. As far as cars go.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the least rad car of all time, I mean, probably something like pre-war, but
brass era kind of thing.
Yeah, brass era car. It's definitely not rad at all.
So just to clarify, you're saying that Chitty Chitty Bang Bang does not belong in the Radwood paddock? Is that what we're hearing?
That'd be a tough sell. That'd be a tough sell. I didn't ever really like that movie, so just like from a personal preference, I'd be like, no, we don't need that.
I'm not sure I've ever seen that one. I have a question for you, and stop me if somebody else already asked this one. But can you tell me, as you got going with Radwood, and maybe you thought, I'm assuming you guys rolled into this assuming it would be a huge phenomenon, but as it really started to dawn on you that this was really becoming a thing, like it was going to be a thing that happened in multiple cities and would sell out, I guess they sell out, right? Or it's a huge deal. You have more than you can do. So you got more than you can do sometimes. Yeah. So as that kind of came about, what surprised you the most? I mean, positive surprises. I don't want to hear bad stuff. I just want to hear like, what have been some of the most positive, fun things you've discovered that you didn't expect to come across?
I think the big thing was the response on social media. We have fans from literally all over the world on the Instagram and the Facebook page. I actually quit doing Facebook, so I don't really know what's going on over there these days.
Smart.
But just for my own sanity.
You're not missing anything, apparently, from what I can tell.
Yeah. It's nothing going on right now at all. No.
But definitely, we didn't expect the huge international contingent that we have. Like I really figured. I mean, as I said earlier in the show, we started the show just for us and our friends. So our first show, we expected like 40, 50 cars maybe, and we had more than double that. So
that's crazy.
And then our second show, 6 months later, we had like 250 cars. So that was when we knew we really had something going on.
Yeah, that's cool. You guys cruised into just an unserved market, really, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the enthusiasm was always there. We just gave it some place to go.
Yeah, you give it some direction. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think it was just a little bit before the rest of the world caught up or realized. So I think that was key to it. Was nobody had done it before. We were the first ones, and it kind of grew from there. So
your branding along the way has really claimed it. I think that's a big huge part of it to me too.
Yeah.
So being the trendsetter that you are, Brad, since you can't hold these Radwood events everywhere all the time, have you had people fly in or come in from far away and come to the events?
Absolutely. We've had people come from Japan. We've had people come from Australia. They fly in for the show.
Do you have people that fly in and buy a car and then come?
Sometimes. Usually they're in the US. So like somebody from New York will fly. But the best one was we actually had one of our most dedicated fans, and he's a friend of mine now, flew to Philly, bought a Starion sight unseen on Craigslist. Like he flew in, cruised Craigslist, finding a car, found a Starion, brought it to the show, and then drove it home to Arizona. And he's brought that car to, I think, 8 shows now. So he drives it. He road trips across the country. He'd go, he's been everywhere, man. He drove it to Atlanta, to LA.
Somebody from Arizona.
Yeah. Bought a Jersey
northeast.
car.
What a northeast car.
Yeah,
Whoa.
and drove it back.
And brought it back to Arizona.
Yep.
Is there a garage in the area that will even look at that thing?
He's a DIYer.
He's playing Rolling Stones tumbling dice the entire way coast to coast because he's rolling them.
And I think he went to like 4 of those shows with a oil pressure problem. And he's like, if the motor bites it, it bites it.
An oil pressure
This
problem.
guy's got to be. He's got to be a lemons racer. He just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah.
You would just show up out of town like that. Yeah, I'll just buy this thing off Craigslist. Like, I mean, there are definitely lemons racers who have bought more than one car in a weekend off of Craigslist to try to get their jump back on track for a half hour on Sunday, which we all know that, right?
For sure. Absolutely.
Dedication to the cause.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what is probably one of the biggest fiascos you've ever experienced? Whether it be small or big.
At a show?
Yeah.
I was going to
Or
say,
around
this could go for hours, Vic.
I mean, there's some things like when things just go completely off the rails, just like, oh my God.
Here's a really good one. We had
the Radwood good, bad, and the ugly. What's something good? What's something bad? And Vicky loves the off the rails ugly.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So something good.
Maybe
and there's been so much good. So much good.
Biggest surprise in a good way.
I mean, just the good is all of the friendships that have been made, whether they're me making friends with other people or other people meeting up and being friends at Radwood.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the big one that I'm most proud of. I've met a lot of people that I really admire throughout these last 4 years, and it that wouldn't have happened without the show. So that's probably the good. The bad is, man, the prices have gone so far up. Everything from the 80s and 90s is so expensive now.
Yeah.
That was an unintended. I mean, I'm not saying that we're driving the market, but a little bit we're driving the market.
Well, you will be soon.
Right, exactly. By actually selling the cars ourselves.
They're going to have a Radwood marketplace, Bren.
So yeah, I'm just gonna have to like artificially deflate the prices of stuff. Don't tell anybody I said that.
That's fine.
I promise I'll get the best price for your car that you can get on the website.
Except for the ones that you want.
Except the ones I want. I might just cancel some bids. Say no.
I can't believe this went for $3.
Yeah. How did that happen? No, yeah. So that's the unintended consequence of the nostalgic enthusiasm of those kinds of cars. And then as far as ugly, the story I was going to say of something that went really wrong was our NorCal show in 2019. We had a really cool venue locked down. And 2 weeks before the show, they went, oh no, we double booked that weekend. So you're out.
Oh,
so 2 weeks before the show, we had to find a new venue.
Wait, where was it supposed to be? At Sears Point?
No. This was on the peninsula, in South San Francisco, or on the Bay side.
Not easy to replace.
No, yeah, not super easy to replace. We ended up having to rebook the venue that we had used the year before, which we don't really love to do, but desperate times, desperate measures, all that. So yeah, we had to rush and we had to rebook all of our food trucks and all of our portalet delivery and all that. So that was like all hands on deck. Everything just blew up, kind of madness. So
as much as you've dealt with portable toilets at this point, I can't believe y'all don't have a better name for it than Portalet. Like I thought y'all would have some sort of nickname for it. As many times as you've had to make that phone call.
Yeah.
I got a question that I want to just squig in the middle. I'm not sure if anybody's
Squig?
already asked this.
Squig in?
I'm gonna squig it. I'm gonna squig it right in there. This is to somebody who spends as much time thinking about cars and writing about cars as much as you do. This may sound like an asinine question, but I'm not really that much of a car guy.
It is Ben.
But of the rad era, what would you say is like the rad era's '57 Chevy? I know it's a real oversimplification, but if you had to say there's one car that stood out as one that just sort of gives everybody extra excitement universally.
I don't know that exists.
Yeah. Maybe good news that cars got so diverse by that point that there's not like everybody looks at one thing.
Yeah. I would say, you're right. It's so diverse. I mean, it's hard to find something that everybody loves, but maybe like a Mark II GTI is in there because it was like inexpensive performance.
Yeah.
Cool to look at. Relatively common and a good aftermarket. You could hot rod it if you wanted to. That's maybe a close allegory, but yeah, it's tough. There was and even then, like that wasn't the only hot hatch that was around those days.
Right.
I think
you had Civic SIs and.
Well, you diversified. You had U.S., you had Japan, you had German.
Exactly.
It's hard to do. So I just realized we neglected your newest sister show.
Yeah, that's all right.
Your Autopia 2099. We got so involved with we were supposed to ask all those questions about that as well as Radwood, but we kind of
that's all right.
We dug into the Radwood thing. So
yeah, it's still fairly new. We just kind of announced it on January 1st was the official launch date.
Mm-hmm.
We are planning the first show in December of this year, probably first or second weekend of December in the Los Angeles area.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that's powered by electrons, anything that propels the wheels through electrons is welcome.
So that's Autopia 2099.
Yep.
Probably, hopefully,
cool.
December-ish. Hopefully,
I know, it does sound good.
LA-ish.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I think there's potentially as big of an impact as Radwood has been.
I think
so. For a different crowd, for sure.
Yeah, different crowd.
Totally for a different crowd. And I recognize that. There's going to be a lot of people that there's no crossover for them at all between the two. But
there's going to be people who are happily hopping. Yeah, there's going to be plenty of Radwood people who are happily hopping from one bank to the next just to be part of the next kind of cool thing. I think that's such a cool idea. That's really exciting.
There were definitely Radwood era electric cars. So if you have one of those, you can go to both shows.
There's one that they race one in Lemons out of this area.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they make like 3 laps. Have to come in and charge up for like 2 or 3 hours. It's a million batteries, but yeah, they do. Of course, it's a Lemons race, so of course they bring it. That's the big deal.
And they get to drive
that's the coolest
all
car
of
at the
Jesus
track
Hour.
when they come. Yeah, they can drive the whole time while the churches are going. That's what they make up all their time during Jesus Hour.
Right.
So what's the Autopia white whale?
Oh, GM EV1.
Oh, okay.
My goal is to have the world's largest gathering of GM EV1s since they were in production.
Is that the
How
one?
many are there?
I don't know exactly how many are left, but I think it's like around 100.
That was the one they wanted to scrap them all, right?
They did scrap them all, yeah.
Yeah, but
The
some
only-
of them escaped.
The only people that are allowed to have them now are museums and colleges.
Mhm.
So GM donated them to colleges for engineering programs, and a lot of those are just kind of sitting around in storage somewhere. So like the colleges don't even do anything with them anymore. And then the museums, everyone that was delivered to anybody had to be inoperable. So they removed one of the key drive components from the car. And GM said, you know, this car can't ever drive again. It can only be used for study and display.
So you can get all the Formula SAE schools that are running around with their electric cars and solar cars and those things like that too.
But why would they want to do that?
It's business.
Why would who want to do what?
Why would they want to not make these cars useful?
Oh, because it was a pilot program.
Okay.
And they were all leases, and they scrapped all of them when they were done, so they wouldn't have to keep parts support and dealership support for the car when it was over. So it was late 90s. I think it ended in 99 was when they scrapped them all. I'm not sure. There's a famous documentary about it, Who Killed the Electric Car. It's kind of boring, honestly, but you know. If you care about these things, you might watch it. That's probably my big white whale is to get 10 or more of them in one place.
Down in I'm thinking, but down in LA, you probably got a decent chance.
Possibly. I know of 4, like right off the top of my head, where I'm pretty sure I could get them if I ask really nicely. They're all at museums, so that's fairly easy to do. There's one at the Peterson.
Yeah, I was going to say.
There's one. What's that?
I was going to say they had one.
Yeah. There's one at the Peterson. There's one at the California Auto Museum in Sacramento. There's another one in a museum collection in the LA area, and then there's one that I've actually sat in Cleveland, Ohio. So.
I'm feeling like we need to storm all these museums and take these.
Yeah,
these
just take them.
Cars, right? We need to get in there and take them.
Who's going to stop us?
That's right. Probably 100,000 cops. That's who.
Yeah.
They care about that.
You're going the wrong direction, Ben. We're supposed to be going away from that.
Oh, yeah. Whew, let me work it down.
Okay, settle down. So, Brad, we hope you had a good time. We enjoyed learning about you. We enjoyed learning and laughing at some of the cars that you've had. We love.
I hope I'm not too boring of a guest.
No,
it's wonderful.
That's awesome.
I need to pick up like 4 or 5 more jobs before I get on the show next time.
I was gonna say if you just could rest up,
work a little harder.
Yeah. Maybe a little more dedication would be helpful. But we do appreciate you coming on, and we are hoping, amongst other things, for many, many other more important reasons, that the Radwood will resume.
I hope so too. It'd be really nice to get back to doing shows.
Would be.
All of my co-founders are really excited about the auction site. I'm excited about it too, but I'm way more excited to get back to doing shows.
Yeah,
that's my big thing in 2021. I love meeting people. I love going to these shows. All the people that are super enthusiastic, we're kindred spirits. So I hope that we can get back together this year.
That would be fantastic, and joins the long list of things that we want to see in 2021, because half the fun of cars is the other people that you enjoy them with. So
that's right.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, Brad, you're an impressive dude. I'm glad I got to jump in and Zoom meet you for a little bit. I love all the stuff you write and all the stuff you do, and stick with it. I'll be paying attention and cheering from the sidelines. That's awesome.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll have a great night.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty.
Dominating with Dawson.
I need to talk to somebody who dominates.
Hello?
Hey.
Hello?
Is this Dominating with Dawson?
Yes.
I've got a question for you, sir.
All right, let's talk.
So I'm sitting here, and to no one's surprise, I'm overthinking things on a routine daily basis.
How about
And
that?
I've come to my latest mental puzzle that I'm putting myself through is I'm finally getting good at threshold braking, or at least what I think is threshold braking.
So we're talking about when you get in the brakes really hard and you get
really
all the
hard,
brakes.
really
And you're-
fast, and then down a little
Gotcha.
bit.
So you're using all the brakes right as you start braking, and then
I
bleeding
think
out.
so, but that's
That's
up to some other people who know better to say for sure. But I know I'm doing more threshold braking, whether it's the threshold.
Okay.
We'll find out
Okay.
as we get better. But with threshold braking, you get the car, and the car kind of tips down a little bit in the front, and weight loads up the front and gets a little light in the back. And then there's other turns where I think maybe is it better for me to not hammer the brake, but maybe come on just a little earlier and maybe a little lower pressure because the car is more stable. And I'm having trouble figuring out, A, if I'm just thinking about things theoretically, and B, if it is true, how would I know when or why?
So yes, there are cases where it might be more advantageous to brake a little bit earlier than the guy who's braking at the very last second, because it might aid you get rotated in a little bit earlier, and you can come out faster than that person who waits the very last second, depending on where you are and you know what sort of turn you're going into. So the answer is not always necessarily going to be, I'm going to drive down to the very last second, I can hit the brakes and then hope for the best, regardless of what kind of turn I'm heading into. Does that make sense?
So it's not one ring that rules them all. You don't
That's right.
always threshold brake.
That's right. So it may be a case where, like you mentioned, it might be better to brake a little bit earlier than the people around you, so your car might turn in better, and you can get through the apex. Get through the apex quicker than them and come out and turn faster. Or it might not even be a case of braking earlier or later. It might be a case of, I just don't need to use full braking power here. I may just need to use a small amount of braking to reassign the weight around the car, to put some weight back on the nose so that the car will accept the rotation into the next thing I'm going to ask it to do. The example that always comes up to my mind, of course, is from my home track of VIR, but there's a turn called South Bend. I think it's turn 10, but you come up out of the S's and you're screaming up out of the S's, and you're like at the last S, you're just trying to bend the car back to the right. And then South Bend is a left-hand downhill turn where it's blind. You can't see anything. So you're turning down this blind left-hand turn that, if you're doing it right in a car with pretty good tires, should be like a 105 mile an hour corner at the exit. So it feels crazy rolling up over this hill, and it seems like a slower corner. But that's a place where you're coming out of the S's with probably 10, 15 more miles an hour than you need to try to get through that turn. So you don't need to brake a ton, but you also need to lose a little bit of speed. But also, essentially, you're coming up out of the S's. You've been accelerating up out of the S's, and you got the front wheels just way hiked up on the car. Like, you're just all front end coming up out of the S's, and you got to slam some weight back down the front before you can roll 95 to 100 miles an hour through this very fast left-hand downhill turn. So you got to get some weight back on the nose. So, and that's a case where you're going to not really brush the brakes, but you're going to be on the brakes, not full braking, and not for very long. You're just going to kind of brake long enough for like less than a half a second, probably, just to put the weight back on the front and lose a little bit of speed. You're doing just the bare minimum to get the front wheels to bite enough to accept the rotation down into this super fast corner. Does that make sense?
It does. So through the conversations that we've had, and through the conversations that we've had on this podcast, and through the books and things I read, racing or high performance driving does not have the 100% you shall do this in all instances.
Oh.
So I don't know if we're going to argue about percentages, but is it 90-10 or 80-20 or whatever? When or how do I know that for this turn or for this type of turn, I should threshold brake? And how do I differentiate that from a turn where I should not threshold brake and just kind of get the car slowed to where I want it to be, but balanced?
I think the determining factor for that is going to be what keeps the car on track, what allows the car to stay on track at the maximum speed. So let me give you an example from Laguna Seca, where we've both been. You're going into turn 3. You got to brake pretty hard. Turn 3, you got to brake
before the bridge, right?
Before the turn 3 is the second one closest to the bridge.
Okay.
Turn 4 is right before the bridge. So turn 3, you've come charging out of turn 2. You're happy you got out of a slow corner, like, I'm gonna go fast, but then you gotta brake pretty hard to get into turn 3. That's the threshold braking right there. But as you roll into the pretty fast turn 4, I would do less than threshold braking. And going to that corner, I'm braking fairly light, and I'm just braking enough to put the nose down to get it to turn through turn 4. Those are, to me, that's if I'm trying to think of a section off the top of my head where one turn is pretty hard braking to get it down and get it in, and then the other turn is pretty light braking to just tiptoe through a really fast apex. That's a good sequence to think of in my mind.
So is there a way to look at a track map and say, hey, on this turn I should be doing this, or am I just going to have to go kind of experiment a little bit out on a track and figure it out?
Yeah, I guess if I'm showing up to a track I've never been to and I'm eyeballing a track map and I see, I mean, I'm never going to go to a track where I haven't watched a bunch of video beforehand. So just assume some knowledge on my part. But I mean, if I'm looking at the track map and I know I've watched some videos, I'm like, okay, there's that big sweeper I've been seeing, guys. That's the fastest turn on the track. So I'm going to even, you'll see a big radius compared to the straights and the other tight turns that you're looking at a track map. So if you see a turn with a big radius, that's somewhere where like, hey, I'm going to go nuts over there.
Okay. and then so you would, do you have a preference, I guess? Do you have a preference like I'd rather threshold brake and get back to the gas as quick as I could, or would I rather start a little early, keep the car stable so I could get to the gas? Like, do you have if given the choice?
I think the two things you just described are a fast driver and a slower driver doing the same sequence. No, I mean, you want to do whatever you're going to do, like whether it's a fast turn or a slow turn, you want to do it as quickly as you can. There's never a thing where it's like, yeah, I'm going to brake a little bit earlier and kind of ease into it. Like, to me, I'm going to honk down on it the exact amount I got to honk down on the speed. I'm going to pull enough speed out of it and just get it and go. So, like, to me, I want to compress the time that I'm braking and the distance. So you're braking speed trace slope for those geeky people like me. Yeah,
is similar. Similar.
I mean, for like if you're breaking down into turn 1 at Road Atlanta or turn 1 at VI, you're braking pretty hard, right? So you should see a pretty steep slope. Yep. But for the places like I've described, like turn 4 or turn South Bend at VI, I think it's turn 10. The decel slope should be less steep. So because you're not applying as much pressure, you're not braking as hard, so you're not putting so much pressure on the pedal of the braking system. So yeah, you're not doing as steep a decel rate. Okay, is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So you're not using the same
threshold, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You're not near the threshold in those situations. You're using the brakes as more of a chassis dynamics aid rather than a stop or I'm going to die aid.
Okay. All right. So it's not like if I need to go from 120 to 80 threshold, or I need to go from 120 to 80, I'm probably going to go at the same slope. But if I need to go down to 40, I may change my slope. Or if I only need to go to 100, I may not have the same slope.
Yeah. If I'm only trying to go from 120 to 100, depending on the radius, if it's I guess if I have time to just brush the pedal and let the car roll down to the apex, I might do that. But I'm probably still going to be pretty, I don't know. I understand what you're asking. I guess, yeah, everything's so dependent on the radius of the turn. I can't just say like it's always this thing.
Right. But it's not just get good at threshold braking and use it everywhere either. Yeah,
right. There are different approaches, and you have to be ready to try different things as far as how much brake to use. It's always safe to go in assuming that you need to have it be at the threshold everywhere. And then there are going to be some cases where you go out to learn a new track and you're braking at the threshold everywhere. And you realize, okay, well, I did that, and then I had to drive up to this corner. So here's a corner where I may not need to be at the threshold.
Right.
But that's a safe way to learn. It's always safer to go with the slower than you think approach and then work your way up. Like, okay, this is a 90-mile-an-hour corner. I can go faster through here. I can carry fourth gear through here and at a respectable RPM. So as you get better and better at assimilating information that helps you be faster, that's part of it.
So you have something between threshold and brush braking, but it's more likely to be a threshold than a medium, let's say a medium pressure.
Right. It's like, for example, if I'm going to just do a quick braking, it's still going to be pretty quick and pretty hard. Is that what you're asking? Yeah. It's rare that I'm ever going to go near the brake pedal and just be like, just touch it. I mean, I'm still going to, you're going to hit it. It's going to be significant. If you're going to touch the brake pedal, it's going to make a significant change, I think.
Okay.
Because also
All right.
significant change might be 5-10 miles an hour, but I'm gonna, you're.
But I need it now.
Yeah. So it's all happening pretty quickly, I think.
Okay.
And you do it pretty quickly, and if you're good at it, it's a little violent.
So your error is towards minimizing braking time versus car balance.
Right, like gently getting on and slowly braking. So we do this glissando down to the apex. Like nobody's doing that. Like it's not. I don't value smoothness so much that I'm going to ease through the brakes and be on it longer than the car needs.
I think we've all agreed to that. Many of these episodes, you do not.
Not trying to spend any extra time doing anything, but also while we talk about this, at least in my mind, any turn, anything that stops me from having the wheels straight and the throttle wide open is just a disruption. I am just trying to minimize the disruption to my wide open throttle, wheels straight down the road time.
I think you need a T-shirt for that, sir.
Is that right on?
Thank you, sir.
All right.